the links to join the channel here over on Subscribe. So thanks for everyone's donations for the live streaming setup. So current year, how do you know it's getting clowny outside? You've got a robot, and suddenly you're concerned about their pronouns. It kind of feels like this is just a vehicle to spread your propaganda to kids. I mean, it has nothing to do with the story. It's just like, you're just doing this to kids. It's like they're robots, they're carbon-based forms of life or whatever. I know they have the Allspark, but this feels like there's something else going on. No, what are you talking about? There's nothing else going on beneath the surface. Except, it does seem like there is quite a bit of other things that are going on beneath the surface. So the images of this are just as horrific as it sounds. It's, if you remember the ring toss game, they were using other, I mean, don't fed post in the comments is all I'm saying. So there's a lot of this stuff going on. By now you got to be pretty well cognizant of what's going on. So Transformers, yes, they're brainwashing your kids. They've been doing it slowly for a long time. It's generational brainwashing, but it seems like in the past 5 years, holy cow, they have taken off that mask. So if you show your kids this sort of propaganda, you're going to have programmed kids. Kids are easily influenced. And what better form of propaganda is there than to sit them down in front of the electronic babysitter or a tablet with a video? And it's like, one time in the past, you were kind of thinking it was going to be, you kind of trust it. And now you realize, oh, these people are like, these are evil people, like actually evil people. So compare the cartoons of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And now you look at like Cartoon Network with Blue's Clues, a cartoon trans beaver, or a trans robot. I mean, how far do you have to... Trans people exist, don't you know? Do trans beavers and robots exist? Because they don't. Anyway, so indoctrinating doesn't get more obvious than what they're doing right now. I'm just across platforms. They're doing it. I feel bad for people whose kids are stuck in government schools. So the goal is to destroy nations, and you do that by destroying the family. They've been doing that for a very long time now. It's just they've accelerated things because people have started to awaken to this and form little groups to resist this, and so they have to accelerate things as quickly as possible. And what side will get ahead of the other side, who knows? So this won't stop until their systems of power are dismantled and deconstructed. Don't say anything in the comments about the Vlad corrective treatment, which works but is messy. So how close are we to all this popping off? I don't know. I kind of get the feeling things are accelerating. So they're using the control of the media to socially re-engineer society. They're demons. They want to burn it all down. It's like Stephen King's The Dark Tower, Book 7, where the records of the beam. It's like they don't know why it feels so good to destroy. It's like it's just built into the universe that they have to wreck the beams. So they'll use kids. At some point, you got to kind of see that we're dealing with monsters here. Because, usually most people would consider, oh, yeah, why would you spread propaganda to kids? Cartoons should be just neutral. And teachers and the government schools and the mainstream media and social media, they don't believe that way anymore. They will openly come out and tell you that they know what's best for kids. And everyone's like, no, parents know what's best for kids. We need a re-examination of the education system. If you think Weingarten at the teachers union thinks that she knows what's best for kids, you say, like, get them out of the government schools. It's like, well, you're paying taxes for it. You should be getting representation for your taxes. It's like, well, I mean, a lot of things that you have to. I mean, when there's so many things wrong with this society, you realize, oh, you can't really fix this piece by piece. It's kind of better to remove it and start something better, even if it's at a smaller scale. So it's time to build a society apart from globalists. They have values, in quotes, that most people don't agree with. Even if you're kind of in the middle of the political bell curve, even if you consider yourself a leftist, you're looking at some of this kind of stuff and you're like, yeah, this is something the parents can explain to their kids if they choose to. You don't want this in the mainstream media, but it is in the mainstream. It's like you live in a society, so your kids might not be watching this stuff, but everyone else's kids are, and they're going to the same government schools or they're playing with them. It's like, at that point, you realize you have a systemic-wide failure of the globalists have already infiltrated the system so well that the only way is kind of to remove yourself from the system, like form your own neighborhoods, form your own towns, form your own communities, regions, counties, states, whatever. I mean, it sounds crazy, but I mean, you look at what they're doing, and eventually people are going to go, oh, this just can't continue, and there's no way to stop it. Working within the system. So maybe forming Christian nationalist or conservative groups to get together and more formally discuss this is the path forward. So this is kind of a war, but it's a psyop battle using media and the schools. Forming separate communities feels like something to consider to at least address the problem and then come together to kind of figure out ways to fix it, because it's at the point where everything in the mainstream media is made by these filthy degenerate parasites. You can't trust a kids show like you could in the 80s. The worst you'd see there was, remember, candy cigarettes or Big League chewing tobacco gum. It's like they sold that in the 80s. Those might have been mistakes in hindsight. So the shows were dumb, but they weren't pushing your kid to ruin their lives. The animation has two woke pox kids talking about a robot's gender. You're gonna have to be pretty far left wing to be on board with this kind of stuff. First of all, I can't watch Pox anything anymore because I have PTSD from purse puppy cringe. We need to set up a Cartoon Network with just Swedish and German kids only, which would be amazingly fun just to see the response of the Mary Sue. I love the Mary Sue. I don't know how they're getting ad revenue to survive, but apparently they are. I kind of feel like Soros might just be subsidizing the Mary Sue or some of these magazines, these digital magazines. It just doesn't seem like there's enough ad traffic to support them. There should be a word for these insufferably woke pox purse puppies, because they're not them. It's like they act as a shield to push the writers' Bolshevik anti-Western propaganda. See, most people don't believe that people have pronouns that aren't in accord with their sex, because we know the compelled speech is leading on this very slippery slope. Like, the whole thing about the pronoun is it really should have been a line in the sand 5 or 10 years ago when the thing started to creep up. Because the idea that you're compelling people to speak and using social pressure to make them say something that is not in accord with reality feels like a very dangerous. If they can make you believe absurdities, they'll make you're going to be witnessing some atrocities. It's like, yeah, we already are witnessing some atrocities. It's not necessarily our kids, but like you're in this society, you're in this culture with other kids who are around these brainwashed parents. It's like, it's so pervasive when I say, like, yeah, time to form separate something like the Amish or something to or a movement that pushes back against this degeneracy and calls them out for the filthy vermin that they are, and to get people comfortable looking at these people and addressing them and saying, like, oh, you guys are Bolsheviks, you're evil people, you have parasites in your brains. To get people comfortable looking at all this and just dismissing it. Oh, it's just more Bolshevik propaganda from the Saul Alinsky, the Frankfurt School, all that kind of mainstream Marxism. It's like they're trying to get people on board with a little bit of like what Bolshevik propaganda is and realize, and it makes it easier to laugh at them and dismiss them. When they like, the left can't mean the left has to give these long convoluted explanations, and you're just saying, like, yeah, we don't agree with all that kind of stuff. Even like teaching like kids in school to ask like one kid to stand up as an individual is tricky, but if you got kids who are part of a group, it's easier for them to just roll their eyes at all this kind of bullshit propaganda and give the teacher a hard time. And I mean, because like ultimately this stuff shouldn't be being taught in schools, it shouldn't be in the mainstream media, it shouldn't be anywhere, but it's just immersed in the society. um these are fundamental. Oh, what nightmare fuel is this? That was in 1997. I'm sure there are a lot of scarred kids in 1997. What dystopian hellhole is this? Yeah, how many kids are in therapy because they saw this in the 90s? Anyway, yeah, there's no trans robots. I don't know if I can say there's no people also that fit that bill. I don't know the rules on YouTube. Um, because I mean, how can you be something that doesn't exist? So I'm not sure, but I also kind of think the people who would take offense are not listening to this. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys all next episode.